Thanks for tuning in for another edition of Hoops Hidden Gems podcast. I'm your host, David Jones. I want to thank you guys for tuning in as usual. This is episode number 52. And again, thank you guys from all over the country that are tuning in, and whether it's live or pre-recorded, whichever way you choose to catch it, we're always appreciative. Tonight, we got another great show as usual. We got a grassroots legend to lead off tonight. Proud of this brother. He doesn't even know, like, before I even met him, he was one of the guys we looked up to. So he came out a couple years before I did, and he set the tone for Pittsburgh basketball. And even though it was strong, this brother right here ended up going to UMass, and a lot of us were watching as we were coming up. Between him and another teammate of mine that went to my high school, he set the tone. You know, we all came through the same AAU program, which was called Ozanam back in the day, and it was a travel, and it's a lot different than what grassroots is today. We went on the national side, so there was really only about 40 to 45 teams that would play nationally. And watching to see what he did, it inspired a lot of us, as well as him and Darrell, for us to strive to do the same thing. Great brother. He's doing amazing things on the girls' side with the Western PA Bruins. For any of you guys that know girls basketball, they are a staple in the UA community as well as on the national scene. They have their own tournament. They have a high placement rate, close to 100%. And this is a guy, I pick his brain when I have questions on the girls' side. So I want to introduce you guys, Mr. John Tate. How you doing today, brother?
David, I'm doing well, man. I appreciate the kind words. I appreciate you having me on this evening.
Hey, man, like when I start doing this, I reached out to Eddie to say, hey, man, I got to get him on the show from what you're doing, man. Like, I've watched what you're doing, and I've taken parts of what you're doing just to let you know, like we were talking backstage about, you know, just AAU in general. And I watched what you were doing with the Bruins, and I just watched from afar. I was like, I'm going to take a piece of that and incorporate that in our program. And this is our first year where we are fortunate to place 100% of our 2022s, man. And to be honest, you had a hand in that, not knowing that, from watching what you do and watch what other folks do. And I just keep an eye. I'm like, man, I have to do that. And when I got a chance to talk to you, I was like, oh, man, you do this, you do this, you do this. And watching from afar, man, I was like, oh, that works. Like, you know, just the networking, knowing the coaches and reaching out and all that. Like you said, like you already know, it's a full-time job doing that, man. You know, reaching out, coaches will hit you at any time and say, hey, I need this. What do you have? And sometimes you have it and sometimes you don't. But for me, I'm also big on, it's not just about us and our program. If I know somebody in Atlanta, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida, I'll say, hey, reach out to such and such. He got this prospect that's a knockout. Because we all win when all these, you know, young men and women get on at the end of the day.
Correct. Yep.
So, man, you know, I want to talk about, before we get into the Bruins, man, let's talk about your experience just coming out of Penn Hills, at Round Ball, to UMass. We'll talk about that first, you know, for people that don't know your pedigree.
Well, yeah, man, 87 graduate of Penn Hills High School, man. Go Big Red. You know, I couldn't be more proud of the education and the opportunities that were afforded me. You know what I mean, at Penn Hills High School, playing for Coach Blick and Coach Melber. I thought I went to college, prepared to compete, you know what I mean, on the floor. And then, you know, I had a great academic foundation laid, you know, with my, you know, from being a Penn Hills graduate. So I was prepared to compete and academically as well. So, you know, I think that's the key. People want to have immediate success. I hear a lot of my players talking about, I want to go somewhere. I want to play as a freshman. I want to start as a freshman, you know, this, that, and the third. But that's a rarity. The question becomes, can you compete academically first? If you can't compete academically first, you have no opportunity to play, to compete athletically down, you know, when that gets rolling come October, November. So I was blessed, man. I'm Penn Hill's proud. And, when we would play TV games or, I got introduced as a starter, I was never from Pittsburgh. I was from Penn Hills because I carried that flag, that banner proudly, that that community as a whole, because it was a community then. I can't speak to what it is now, but when I came up, it was community. The whole Grove Road, the street I grew up on, all of Grove Road looked out for me. All of Westminster Drive looked out for me. All of Bramble Street looked out for me. Whether it was the families, the older kids who might have been doing some things that that was attractive to a 12 and 13-year-old, but wouldn't let me participate in those things because they saw I had, some potential to do other things. So I'm appreciative to all those folks, man. And, I feel fortunate and blessed that I came through Penn Hills and Pittsburgh and UMass when I did, got a chance to play for Coach Calipari, who, I was blessed to speak at his Hall of Fame induction, 5 years ago now, 6 years ago now, 7 years ago now. That's how time flies by. 7 years ago, in his Hall of Fame induction, I was blessed to speak at that. And, I knew he was special, when I was in school. I think he was a Hall of Famer? No, but I've watched his development and his growth and his maturity. And, I couldn't be prouder to play, that small piece. And, him being enshrined in the Naismith Hall of Fame.
And, man, one of the even prouder things is, I tell people all the time, like when Coach Cal got his, really big start at UMass, it was a lot of Pittsburgh products that came through there that really helped get that on the map with yourself, Jim McCoy, William Herndon. It was the number of you guys that were big in that, man. And, the one thing I always tell people, and even in the coaching ranks, one of my good friends down here, whenever somebody's from Pittsburgh, we always look out for each other, even from the coaching ranks. Like when I see people and I'm like, oh, you from Pittsburgh? And, they may give me a quick test. I'm like, what high school did you go to? I'm like, man, I went to Perry, man, Perry 90. And they'll be like, oh, okay, you good. You're good.
Yeah,
good.
Right.
And they may ask me, did you know Darrell? I'll be like, yeah, who doesn't know Darrell?
Well, who doesn't know the Dapster? I mean, the thing about it is, man, again, you're a little bit younger than me, right? But you understood what our grind was like from 83, 84 through I'd say 91, 92, man. Exactly. Those courts, man, Reisenstein, Mellon, OZ, Kennard Field, man, those were wars, man. You know what I mean? Absolutely. And so again, we talked a little bit earlier about preparation for college. The things that I went through on those floors playing against Mooney and you know what I mean, and John Marshall and Darren Wall, some of these other guys, some of these older guys. The things that I saw in college, I wasn't impressed by these dudes because I had played against bigger, stronger, faster, better. From the time I was 13 until I left to go to school. You know what I mean? That summertime, man, those summer evenings and afternoons at Reisenstein Field, when I would catch the bus, I would catch the 68B Blackridge from Penn Hills and get off in East Liberty and then walk the 4 or 5 blocks to Reisenstein. Man, those were some of the most hellacious, competitive runs on that blacktop, man. That sun beat down on you. One water fountain for 100 people. If you lost, you might have to sit out for 2 hours. You know what I mean? Those things prepared me, man. It taught me a lot about the competitive response. It taught me a lot about mental toughness. And so I go away to school and Cal's preaching those things. And it just was, for me, a reinforcement of things that I picked up in those environments.
Absolutely.
And don't let me as I'm talking to a Perry guy, don't let me leave out Manchester either. Yeah, I mean, we just come over here and get it in too. So I don't want you and Darrell looking at me sideways. I only mentioned the East Side course. Man. I didn't want to leave out Manchester either.
Well, John, first of all, as you know, Darrell's from the Hill. Man, I'm from Stanton Heights. So I'm from
Okay,
the
okay,
east side. Yeah, so I'm
okay,
from the east
okay,
side.
okay,
So, and my
okay.
grandmother lived on Travella, just to let you know.
Okay, okay, okay,
So,
okay. But I know you period cats get kind of funny acting, man. If we don't mention something about the north side, so I want to make sure we just go. Yeah, I get that weekender, that bus pass,
yeah, yes,
and put
indeed.
and put me a couple. I get $5 or $10 from my mother, man, and put my backpack and put my ball in my bag and just get on that bus,
And
man,
go
and go
all
find
over the
games, man.
city, man.
Yeah,
Yep.
and that's the thing, man. With this violence, man, I don't want to touch on this too tough, but that's the thing that I
Yeah.
think disappoints me the most, man, is that I got on the bus and I went
You can go
all
anywhere.
over it,
Yep.
and never once thought about I'm not going to come home tonight. Like I'm not going to make it home.
Exactly.
We might get into a pushing and shoving match. It might
Yeah.
turn into an all-out fight, but I was going to go home, and that's the thing that I feel as bad as anything for these kids of today, man. That when they leave the house, they literally have to. And parents, man, you have to you have to kiss and hold and really cherish the time you have with your children. And when they walk out that house, because in today's world, you don't know if they're coming home, man, and that's got to be really really tough. I'm thankful all my children are grown. I do have a 7-year-old godson, and the world. I'm afraid for the world he has to grow up in, man. It won't be the environment I did. I got on the bus and my
Yep.
mother and my grandmother, they knew I was coming home. I might be late. I was known to be late, but I was coming home. And so that it's just a different environment now. But yeah, again, I mentioned it earlier. I couldn't be happier. I don't feel like I could be more fortunate to come up in the time that I came up in Western Pennsylvania from a basketball standpoint.
And just to give you a little bit more insight, outside of you, another Penn Hills guy that was big for me because he lived across the street from my grandmother, Aaron Tipton.
Yes, well, Aaron Tipton's Aaron Tipton's older than me, somebody that I looked up to. You know what I mean? When I was in middle school, watching him play, in a Penn Hills uniform, looked up to Aaron Tipton. One of the first guys I ever saw dunk in a high school game. You know what I mean? Aaron could really play the game. So yeah, great dude, a really good player, and again, somebody that you could look up to as a young dude and say, "Hey, man, here's a guy that's doing things the right way. I'm gonna try to do things just like he's doing."
Absolutely. And, that's one thing I always tell these young guys, don't be afraid to emulate after some guys that are only 3-4 years ahead of you, because you're watching what they do and they're closer in age to you. So it hits home a little harder. Like, I tell people all the time, what we saw with Darrell and Ricky Cannon and all them guys were doing, we were in amazement, like, man, we want to do what they doing. And
Right.
those are things when we saw what Major Harris and them was doing. Even the Mike Booth was only 2 years ahead of us. Jimmy Lincoln, like all of those guys played a role in inspiring us, even though we were all fierce rivals. But at the end of the day, man, I tell people this all the time, whoever came out of Western Pennsylvania to represent the state, we was behind. I don't care who it is. Whether it was Penn Hills. And side note, John, just to let you know, we gave Penn Hills the business our senior year, just to let you know.
Well, I was long gone by then, man, so I'm sure you guys did.
So just to let you know, we gave them the business our senior year. That was Sean Morris's junior year.
I mean, that was a good team. Him, Ed Josefowski, and those guys.
Yes.
Was Chris Horn was on that team.
Yes.
Yeah. Those were a good young group. I mean, I remember. So obviously, I'm 4 or 5 years older than them dudes. I remember them dudes when I was in 10th and 11th grade, coming up and following, chasing after me in the gym. You know what I mean? And so
Reggie Tolliver, George Robertson,
right.
All
So
of them.
that's how the game, the community was back then, man. And, you knew everybody, and it was, like you said, there was a respect factor, man. I mean, we would compete against, people like the late great Curtis Bray, Kerry Smith, Jerry Lee at Gateway, the Yost boys at Norwin, Jimmy and Jimmers and them guys at Central, Herndon and them guys, and Jason White and those guys at Alderdice. So, and here's the thing, me, Jason, Jimmers, Hearn,
y'all play together.
We play together at AU. We're still great friends now in our early 50s. So that's
Exactly.
the thing that, with my girls, man, I try to explain to them and even the parents, man, that you deal with. And I understand that it's a, I tell my coaching staff, man, we deal with the three most sensitive things in a person's life: their time, their money, and their children. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? But when I have a parent meeting every year with my club, and I tell them, I know it's hard because there's money output and time spent, but if you're a sixth, seventh, eighth grader, let's not worry about scholarships today. Let's enjoy the journey. Let's
Development.
let's develop as players, but how about this? As people, as young ladies
Yeah.
also, and
Mhm.
let's establish some relationships with some people that if it wasn't for your daughter being on this team and in this program, they would have never otherwise met. My most proudful thing, and I've been blessed, man. I've coached two WNBA lottery picks. I've coached a most outstanding player in the Final Four, in the Western region. She's played in the Final Four 2 or 3 times. I've coached the All Big 12. McKenna Maurice was first team All Big 12 this year. I've coached some really, really great players. We've won some really major events in the 10, 12 years I've been at the helm. But my proudest thing is when I peek my head to some of these high school games in Western Pennsylvania, and the girls who are off that night are there supporting their Bruins teammates who are playing.
Absolutely.
I mean, other than the actual scholarship that are earned, the free education that these young ladies get, that I know we've played a part in. That is I'm most proud of that, because that tells me that it's for them become bigger than just March to July. But
Mhm.
we're in relationship now.
Yeah.
We're true friends now. Because if I'm a teenager, you know how free time is with teenagers. If I got free time and I'm going to give it up to go support you, that means that we're in real relationship now. And the fact that those relationships were started in our program, it's something that we're real proud of.
And John, what you're saying, and I know you're gonna, you already said it. A lot of those relationships and what you're taking from the late great Carl Coleman, because we
Sure.
all pretty much did the same thing. Even though
Right.
I just teased you about that, like Sean was our teammate,
Right.
Reggie was our teammate, George was our teammate. Like,
Right.
even though they were the younger guys on the team, but they all were on the team as well. And like, with social media now, like, I can hit Reggie up right now. Hey man, what's going on? How you been? You know,
Right.
a good portion of the guys from our Ozanam team. And we had a pretty good team as well with Will Macon, Sean,
Mm-hmm.
Lee. We had a really good team as well because as you know, a lot of people look at Pittsburgh as a football state. I mean, football city. And I'll never forget when we walked into St. Louis and they were kind of just laughing, just like, yo, this ain't football. We were like, okay, bet. We're gonna
Right.
see. We're gonna
Right.
see.
Right.
And it was just so much. Like when I tell people, the round ball was in Pittsburgh, I say, 5-star was at Robert Morris. Everybody knew about Metro Index with Joe Butler. All of us went.
Right.
That was part of your growing
Yep.
up and
Yep.
seeing
Yep.
competition.
Yep.
And when I mention those things, they be like, "Dang, y'all had a lot." I'm like, "Yeah, man, it wasn't just football." I was like,
Right.
"Now there was multi-sport athletes, sure, and yes, football is a staple in Western Pennsylvania." But I was like, "Please believe there's some very good basketball there,
For
boys
sure.
and girls."
For sure. I don't think there's any question about that. And it's just a testament, I think, to people like Carl Coleman, right? Who you know showed me. I've pulled so much in my early years of being a director of
There
the
you
things
go.
I can remember from him in terms of you
Exactly.
know I would just remember his tryout speech, and he would tell people this is going to be fair because it's always going to be a basketball based decision.
Yeah.
And the toughest thing for me, man, is when you're going to cut somebody. Like I don't ever want to cut a kid, especially one that might have been with you 2, 3 years but hasn't developed. as quickly or as much as they should have, and better people come along. You got to cut that kid. But I sleep easy at night because I tell people all the time it's a basketball based decision.
Absolutely.
I run a basketball club. I'm not running a social club. So when I lay my head down at night, I know I haven't made any personal decisions against a player, a family. It's basically basketball based. And that allows that allows my staff and I to sleep well at night, understanding we make basketball centric decisions. And I got that from Carl Coleman.
Absolutely, man. And we all did, like that was part of his legacy, man. And, a lot of people don't understand when a person leaves a legacy as you grow up, that's stuff you hold on to. And sometimes people implement as yourself, as well as myself as well. You implement that into your own programs because you're taking what you know and in our eyes what worked. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so,
right, for sure.
And that's just the thing and then you start to realize as an adult how important that was when you didn't realize it back then. And, I'll speak on a Penn Hills resident that was our head coach, Chuck Franklin. Like a lot of his teaching, it could have been harsh, but when you get to be a adult, you're like, oh, I understand where you're coming from.
Exactly.
Exactly.
There's no question. I mean, the things that, we look to as lecturing or, too hard or too rough. I remember, Cal and I went round and round, man. We didn't have the closest relationship when I was in school because I thought he was hard on me. I thought he picked on me. I thought he was the things he let other people get away with. I could never get away with it. So there was some resentment there. And he and I have talked about that in the 30 years since, right? But when I got in corporate America and the things that he had preached to me about being on time, being prepared, mental toughness, how to focus on things, stay focused on things and not be easily distracted. When those things enabled me to have some success with companies like Pitney Bowes and American Express, I wrote him a letter thanking him for those things that he taught me 15, 20 years ago that my young 18-year-old mind couldn't process.
Exactly.
And it's no different than I'm sure that you went through with Chuck. What is this all about? I know Darrell and I have talked about that a bunch. Like, you hated Chuck. You didn't understand how important and how valuable he was to you guys until long after you were going through the program. Right. And that's the legacy of it all.
Yeah, absolutely. And man, now just talking about the legacy, man, what you've done with the Bruins, man, like anybody that's in grassroots on the girls' side, whether it be EYBL, whether it be Three Stripes or Under Armour, if I bring up the Bruins, automatically they know who you are. Oh, Big John, yeah, I know Big John. I'll be like, yeah, trust me. I was like that. I'm from that area. And, you've left a mark that everybody respects you. All the Atlanta teams on the girls' side know who you are. When I go out to Texas, they know Texas U knows who you are. Sci-Fair knows you're like, there's not a place I can go from a grassroots perspective. If they say I don't know the Bruins, I'm looking at them like well, number one, you're not a grassroots team. You're just not, unless you're an independent that's just getting into the game. Then I can respect you if you do that. But if it's an established shoe team, they all know you, and they all know you pretty well as well. They're like, oh yeah, they do a good job, or they're like, yeah, I know him. And what you have set up here, like I said, just watching from afar, like just if people just even go to the Twitter page for the Bruins, you'll see a number of those girls not just getting Power Fives. And this is what I took for you. And I was adamant about that. And this is really part of my show. Man, I made sure I reached out to all of those high academics, man. All of those high academics. Because when I looked at that and I was like, man, he's getting a bunch of these America East, Ivy League schools, Patriot League. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to reach out to all these coaches and make sure that I develop some type of relationship. Because I was just from far like, how is this happening? I was thinking, there's no way. Like, of course, I'll go with the ignorance part. For me, I thought it just wasn't attainable to get our kids in there. And here we got a kid this year. He has Cornell, Princeton, and Yale looking at him this year. And, again, like I said, I took that from following how you guys were doing your program from afar. And I jumped on that and I was like, I need to know all of these coaches. So when I go out to a Three Stripes event, or I go to a UA event, or I go to an EYBL event, if I don't know them, I go approach them, hand out a card. I jump on Twitter. Hey, it's nice to meet you. And you develop those relationships. And yes, some of those relationships do take time. Some
Yes.
coaches can be apprehensive at first.
Right.
Until they warm up to you or they see you're doing some things. When they see you're doing some things, that's when they'll be like, oh, okay, I remember you, because I used to kind of take that personal at first, man.
Right.
I thought I'm, a pretty good guy, but
it's easy to take that personal. Easy to take that personal. Yeah.
Until you really get into it, you understand a lot better.
Right.
Better.
And so for us, man, it's always been about, we're known nationwide because we compete nationwide.
Yeah.
For me and for us, it's never, nobody wants to win more than me, right? Like I'm uber competitive.
Yeah.
But I'd rather go lose a dogfight in Texas against San Antonio's finest,
yes,
or Texas U, or Sci-Fair, or DFW Elite, and stay here in Pittsburgh and beat somebody by 50 or 60.
Yeah,
there's just I've done that already, and there's no upside in it for kids. For our kids who, if you're in our program in 8th, 9th, 10th grade, you are aspiring to play at a higher level. Beating somebody by 50 or 60 in some local gym, it has. We're not playing for plastic trophies anymore. We're not playing. We're playing for every time we're together on the floor. You want to get better with an eye on playing and preparing to play at the next level. So how do we do that? Well, we have to be coached in that manner, and then secondly, we have to compete in that level against other at the highest level. It's funny, man. I like to think we have our pick of the players in the area. There's always one or two that might, go to other clubs, and I'll have a respectful conversation with that family, and you'll never hear me badmouth at another organization. But what you'll hear me is point out differences. And the biggest difference for me is, as far as I'm concerned, is that you have to be in the gym consistently with players at your level if you want to get better. Then that in turn allows you to play against players on your level. If you're clearly the best player on your team, you're on the wrong team.
For the most part, unless you just the top,
unless you're number one player in the country, unless you're Page, unless you're AZ, unless you're some of these kids who are just unbelievable. If you're clearly the best player on your team, like there's nobody. If you're you can make it even less. You don't have to make it that dramatic. If you're the only Division I player on your team, you're on the wrong team.
For the most part, now I'll say this, Don. For the most part, that's 90% correct in my mind, unless they're in those areas where they don't have neighboring states.
Regional. It can be. There's some caveats to that based on where you live, right?
Yeah.
But that's we'll take those off the table.
You're correct. Definitely.
I'm talking about the rest of society, right?
Yeah.
If you're telling me, you're a McDonald's kid, a Power 5 kid, you're playing with kids that are borderline Division II and Division III kids.
You're hurting yourself.
You're killing yourself. You're killing yourself. And so, we've carved our niche out, man. As being known as a club that's going to come out and compete with you. We're going to go, we're going to get down, we're going to guard you. We're going to make you uncomfortable from a defensive standpoint, and then we're going to play unselfish basketball on the offensive end. That's how and we're going to be tougher than you. That's just I recruit basically from 4 counties. I'm competing against, my guy Scott Johns, who brings it, from West Virginia Thunder, who brings them in from 4 or 5 states. My guy Mo from FBC, who brings them in from 4 or 5 states. My guy Thomas from Exodus, who's got the whole state of New York and New Jersey. He bringing them in. My guy, Ron from Takeover's got the whole DMV. So we've got to overcome those talent shortcomings or lack of depth by just going out and trying to be tougher than people. And my thing is, you can't control anything but effort and defense. Everything else is, hey, if shooting was something you can control, nobody would ever miss. But you can't control that. But I can control how great of a teammate I am. I can control how hard I compete on the defensive end. I can control being unselfish. And those are the things we like to focus on. And we've carved out a pretty good niche, over the last decade, doing so.
And now, one of the questions I have for you, and I'm picking your brain right now that you've established that type of reputation, I would have to say it's safe to say when the beginning of the year hits, or not even the beginning of the year, you're getting calls from coaches saying, hey, I need a 4, I need a 5, I need a point guard, I need a 2. What do you guys have this year? And another thing I took, and I didn't take this from the Bruins because I wouldn't know, I've never been to a practice. I was big on inviting college coaches to our practice.
Right.
Not just the games. I was very big on that. And again, not just D1s, because that was the other misconception a lot of people have is that you're close to it. You got pretty much majority D1s on that top team. But as we talked about in Charlotte, man, I'm big on, if you got NAI players, if you got high academic D3s, or if you got PSAC players or Peach Belt players, like you need to have those coaches in the gym or at least live streaming it so they can get a look and get a feel, because most coaches want to get eyes on players.
The fit's the fit, man.
Yeah.
And I think the one thing that has helped us as a program is our staff is honest. Yeah. You know what I mean? We've had kids offered by Division I schools, and we've told that coach, you're trying to get fired. That kid can't help. That kid's not a Division I player. Like you might have saw him in a 4 or 5 minute burst at an evaluation, at an evaluation tournament, an exposure event. That was lightning in the bottle. That was luck. That kid's lazy as a dead man. That kid does not usually compete at that level. That kid can't play. You know what I mean? Because the honesty in that relationship for me is more important. It's the most important thing. So when I have a kid and I call,
they'll pick up the phone.
They pick up the phone. And that's what I tell people. You want to talk about the difference between your elite programs and everyone else. You know what I mean? Again, I'm not knocking anybody else, but the elite program on the girls' side, right, is that when there are people, when the phone rings, it gets picked up. I happen to be one of those people. You know what I mean? I've earned that right by telling these college coaches the truth, whether it was harsh and brutal and they didn't want to hear it, or we were in complete agreement about a player. We and my staff and we tell the truth about players, because it's not just about that kid for us. It's about the next 10 kids, 15 kids coming down the line. And what people tend to forget is it's not just about that school, but that coach could leave that school and go to somewhere else. So if you burn that bridge, you burn that bridge at that school where they're at now, and the schools they end up. And you and I both know nobody talks like a college coach. They're murdering you to, you know what I mean, their comrades about, you can't take their word. They told me this kid could play. We took a shot at this.
Yeah.
So when parents are looking at making that choice, if you've got a kid, a Division I, a Division II kid, I think the Division III, because of the academics, is a little bit different. But if you've got a Division I or a Division II kid, and you're looking for a program for them, it's really about track record, right? Absolutely. And when that coach picks up, when I pick up the phone, when that director, that coach picks up the phone, is that coach on the other end going to answer it?
Absolutely.
And they have a track record. What's their placement? Everybody can have a year-end event celebrating the end of, the season. But how many of those kids are going to school for free or for mostly free? This ain't the Met Gala where we all want to get dressed up. We have a signing day event, and everybody that's committed and either signs at that event or they signed at school earlier today. We have a nice event for them and their families. And other clubs they bring everybody out. Well, only 2 of those 30 people went to school. Everybody else is just dressed up. We're a basketball club, so we're going to focus on the basketball accomplishment and not all the other social BS.
Gotcha. Okay. And so one of the other things you touched on, and I'm big on this as well, like you want to play the best of the best. So, I'll bring up like the Bruins tip-off tournament at the beginning of the year. Mm-hmm. Man, y'all got EYBL teams. You got 3-stripe teams. You got some of the best of the best, and I was sick. I missed it this year, but please believe I won't miss it next year. But like one of the best teams I've seen this year was Team Takeover. Man, that team is good. They're really good.
Ron does, my guy Ron James, who's a director on the girls' side and coaches their 17U team. We met 5 years ago on Twitter. He was on Twitter talking about something, and I commented on him, and I said, "Hey man, I got this tournament. Would love for you to have you come out." He said, "Man, we'll be." He called me. He said, "Man, we talked on the phone for about 5 or 10 minutes." He's been coming every year. Like they come 10, 12 deep every year from a team standpoint. His family, his parents, they're great people, but he's always really, really good, competitive. He coaches those kids hard. He's always got a really, really talented group. And I always enjoy when our groups get to match up. My 15U team played their 15U team in Charlotte over Memorial Day weekend, and that was a great game for us because it forced us to play a different style. They're so long and so athletic,
yes,
and skilled. It's you typically see one or the other. You don't see being long and athletic and skilled. Sometimes you just see skill, but they were really good. So we really had to dig deep to eke that one out. But they all Ron just does a great job from top to bottom. And he's a guy. The guys that I've really aligned myself with, and the women that I've aligned myself with in this business are the ones who honor their word.
And genuine.
And listen, Ron James is who Ron James is. But when Ron James says, "Listen, man, I'm sending 10 teams to your tip-off, I'm getting 11 or 9." You know what I mean? I'm not getting 3, or I'm not getting a call saying, "Hey, man, we're not coming." You know what I mean? Or some late no-show pull out. No, his word is his word. Same thing with Scott Johnson. West Virginia Thunder. Scott, you coming? Yeah. Who you bringing? Come on, man. I'm bringing everybody. I even got to ask. You know what I mean? I'm bringing everybody. My guy Mo from FBC.
Mo down at FBC.
Yeah. Now listen, he's jumping on the plane. You know what I mean? He's flying 5 or 6 teams up on a plane to come participate and play because of our relationship. So those are the things, man, that I really value. And that's been my thing on this thing. Is what I've been involved in. My word is my word. You know what I mean? If I say I'm sending teams to your event, we come to your event. You know what I mean? Whether it's John McGraw's event in Charlotte, whether it's Ron's event in DC, whether it's Elevate Elite's event in DC.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I've been. Whether it's it don't matter. If I say I'm coming, we're coming, and I want to do business with the same type of people, and that's I think why we've had and that's just it makes it easier. I don't got to chase after you. I'm not worried about where this guy really coming, this team really coming. If I'm dealing with people who I know are coming because that's the type of people I'm dealing with.
Okay, hey man. So let me ask this, man. And so I'm sure at some point it'll be your time to walk away from this, whether it be 5, 10, whatever that time may be.
It's closer to 5 than it is 10, but go ahead.
And so what do you want your legacy to be that you had? We talk about Carl Coleman, leaving his legacy. What do you want your legacy to be on this whole grassroots thing?
I think it's somebody who, first and foremost, cared about the kids. You know what I mean? And I think that that dude cared about the kids.
Yeah.
And and his word, his word was his word. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If he said my kid was going to pay $250 or whatever it is, they were going to get this, and this, and playing this number of tournaments for as long as I was with that program, they got this, and playing that number of tournaments. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's somebody who valued relationships, and one of the biggest things for me is that when a coach calls a player, I don't care if you're a Power 5 kid and this is a Division III school.
Yes,
you call that coach back. If a coach calls me and say, "Hey man, I can't get XYZ on the phone," I'm calling that kid and I'm letting them have it.
Yes.
Let's learn how to be mature enough to respect other people's time. And there's nothing wrong with saying, "Coach, I appreciate the call, but hey, I'm not interested. I got my eyes on some different opportunities."
Absolutely, it's etiquette. You're talking etiquette,
right?
John.
Right, yeah. Right. So those are the lessons and the values that I would like to, as we talk about legacy, David, that I would like to leave behind. And I want to leave. I think about this a lot, man. As you get older, you think about these things. I want to leave the brand stronger than it was when I took over. 10 years ago. I think we've done a good job of that. I want to be in a space where, we've expanded our number of teams, and we've done that. We were at 7 or 8 when I took over. We were at 18 this year. We'll probably be in the mid-20s next year, just on the girls' side. And then, we're getting the calls and the interest you and I talked about. Is there going to be a reason for us to maybe dabble on the boys' side? So those are the things if I'm done, and then the other thing, I talked to you about this as well. This is something that's really weighs heavy on me, is a more diverse and inclusive program, and trying to figure out. I don't want grassroots basketball in Western Pennsylvania to become equestrian, to become golf, to become tennis, to become water polo, where only those who can afford to play or born or live in the right zip code have the opportunity to play and benefit, but we all do. So that's one of my short-term focuses that I'm really going to dig deep into in the coming months, to put something in place to get, not just in my club, but more diversity in all our local clubs. I think it starts by getting, in certain communities with programming at an earlier age. And so that's one of the things that we're going to start working on in August. Some meetings and things in August and September, trying to get some programming in place to get that ball rolling. So that would be a legacy type of thing for me. If will be a big thing for me as we look forward to doing something like that.
Hey, man, just one last question, especially with the type of program you run. Even though I noticed it, but I just want to hear it as well. Man, how important is it for you to teach man principles for the Bruins instead of a lot of these AAU teams that want to win and just pack in the zone and don't really teach these kids?
Well, here's what I would tell you. For us, if you can't guard, you can't play. If you don't guard, you don't play. There's nothing that infuriates me more than I drive 7 hours, my players drive 7 hours, my family drives 7 hours from Pittsburgh to Charlotte to play in a tournament, and the coach on the other end of the floor is yelling zone, is playing zone. And the first thing I yell out is, "I can't believe we drove 7 hours." I yell right down to the other coach, I can't believe we drove 7 hours so this dude or this young lady can sit in the 2-3 zone. You know what I mean? It's just, when we're trying to prepare to play at the next level.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that I tell my parents, or you'll have parents who are trying to figure the process out. They'll say, well, my daughter's a 2, or my daughter's a 1, or my daughter's a 3, or my daughter's a 4 in college. And I say, well, we'll make it real simple for you. In college, your daughter is who she can guard.
Absolutely, man. And
if she can't guard a 1, guess what? She ain't a 1. If she can't guard a 4, she ain't a 4. It becomes really simple in how to project young ladies to the next level. When we have so many players, the next level is who can that kid guard? You know what I mean? My kid's a Power 5 kid. Okay, who can she guard
on the Power 5 level? Not even a Power 5 level,
right? And the one thing we started to encourage, the one thing we've started encouraging our parents to do is, we're blessed in Western Pennsylvania. You've got the PSAC, you've got the West Virginia Inter-Athletic League, which are really good Division II leagues. Yeah. Go to one of those games. I know you got UConn Dreams, which is fine, but go to one of those games and then tell me how your kid is a big time Division I kid. When, let's be honest, they're going to struggle to play at that level, knowing what I know, knowing what my staff knows from terms of how good that level is. And so, those are the things that we try to share, man, in terms of we're going to be honest with the family, with the player, with the college coach, and we're going to start who is your kid going to guard? Who is she going to guard on the next level at that Division I level, at the Division II level, at the Division III level, if that's where they're at. Their position is dictated by who they can guard. So we're going to teach them how to guard. We play man to man from 4th grade up. You go to watch fourth grades. It's a little different than 4th grade, right?
Yeah.
But you go watch one of my 5th grade teams play, and it's the funniest thing in the world to me, man. How they're in help side, and they're trying to talk and have their head on the swivel, and they're talking, they're calling out cutters and telling people to get over the screen. But that's what by the time you're in 7th and 8th grade, if you've played for 2 or 3 years, you understand.
It's ingrained in you. Yeah.
Right. Because that's all we're going to do. Like we don't even have, we played a little bit of 2-3 zone. In short, we were up big in the game. We played a little bit. It was a running clock. We played a little bit of 2-3 zone just to get the game over with. But we looked at me like, you stay in the middle. You two going to, because they had never played it with us before in the summer. It was just something I wanted to just throw in to help get the game out because you got to guard. That you have to, and that's a John Calipari engraved in my mindset. Defense is the only thing. Defense and effort are the only 2 things in a game that are completely under your control. Yep. So those should be the things that you focus on.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Hey, man, I thank you so much for coming on, man. I appreciate you, man. I'm always big on supporting back home, man. You already know I'm a phone call away if you need anything, man. And I know if I need anything, man, I'll hit you up in a heartbeat, man. I appreciate it, man, big time.
For sure, man. I appreciate you having me, man. Enjoyed it. We'll be talking soon, I'm sure. Be safe on that trail this July. If you need me, just give me a ring.
Definitely, man. You take care, and we'll be talking soon, all right?
Appreciate you, David. Thank you, man.
All right, take care.
Yeah.
One of the legends of the game, Coach John Tate, like I said, he's come from a great program from college to high school, and he's had great examples from pre-grassroots to where it was still AAU nationals, even up to round ball. Like, we were blessed to see so many examples and not knowing how big it was until we got to a later stage in life, and being able to do that and do what he's doing on that lady side is something big. Our next guest, it threw me off for a second because she's filling in for another person coming in for a new post grad that's coming out of North Carolina this year. And I apologize as I bring her on because it threw me off when she came on. I'm looking around like, boy, we're getting hacked. What's going on here? But I'm glad, I'm glad she came on because I'm excited to talk about this new program, this post grad program out of North Carolina. And it's Coach Janisa Newsom that's coming on. I'm going to bring her in. How you doing today, Coach?
I'm fine. And yourself?
I'm doing good. Thank you for being patient. Like I was talking to Quincy, like, "Hey man, what's going on?" He was like, "Oh man, I'm sorry. This is that." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Because when you popped in, I'm looking like, okay, because I was going to kick you off. Like I don't know who this is, but
Oh
thank you so
no.
much for coming on. And you know, like when I reached out to Quincy about this, I was excited to see this post grad program. You guys are located in Raleigh, right?
No, we're in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, you're in Charlotte. Okay, so you're in
Mhm.
Charlotte. So and Charlotte's loaded up. You got Combine. Um, you have a couple other programs as well, but North Carolina is a basketball state, and there is so much talent there. You won't have no problem getting talent to come to Dell Prep, definitely. And I just wanted to introduce you guys to the listeners in regards to Dell Prep, and I was excited to say, okay, the new post grad. Let's see what they're talking about. Tell us a little bit about Dell Prep.
So, the preparatory athletics was actually started in memory of my late father. He passed away in 2019. So, I wanted to start a program in his honor, but also provide an opportunity for young and women that are seeking an additional year, after they graduate from high school, to have the opportunity to, play and showcase their talent to eventually earn the scholarship that they were seeking for when they're in high school. Um, with our program, it's not just focused on them as an athlete. We want to focus on we call them scholar athletes because you're a scholar first before you are an athlete. But we want to focus on them as a whole. So we're focusing on their mental capacity, we're focusing on their discipline, their drive. Also, when it comes to them being an athlete and their academics. And so, what we've done was created established partnerships in the local community that are working with us to make sure that our scholar athletes are ready for the next level.
Absolutely. Now, let me ask this. Will you be connected to any community college or four-year school if they want
Yes,
to take classes?
so yes, they are able to take college courses. So we have a certain criteria in place. We want them to have a certain GPA in order to take those college classes because we want to,
Okay.
and that GPA is a 3.0 or higher. We have that so that way, at that point, we know that they're ready to take the college course. Anything below that, we have partnered with the organization that will help increase their GPA, and they will probably put them in like one college course just to give them a little taste. But if any scholar athletes that's coming to us with a lower GPA, we're just kind of hesitant to put them in those college courses because we don't want to set them up for failure. We want to make sure that they're able to manage the load that's coming towards them. You're not just dealing with that with the academics, but getting up early. We're talking around 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. You're going to practice, 3 hours of practice, then you're coming back, doing your hygiene, then you have class, then you have practice again. We really have the makeup of what it will look like at the collegiate level because we want to make sure that they're prepared. Wherever they're going, we want that college coach to know that they're getting somebody that's prepared for that level.
Okay. Okay. So, do you also have recovery classes for some of those athletes that are borderline qualifiers as well?
Yes, we do. They'll be able to take what we do. We'll get their transcript. We'll send it to the organization that we have a partnership with, and they will actually evaluate their transcript and let them know what classes they need to take and what they can do to increase their GPA. So the ultimate goal is if we have scholar athletes that's in that boat where they're part of that program for a semester, to where hopefully the next semester they can actually start taking college courses.
Okay. Okay. So, now let's talk about the good stuff now. So, what are your plans? I know you're going to play a pretty solid schedule. Are you going to play nationally or going to play local or regional? What's the plan for Del Prep?
So we are looking to play nationally. We were fortunate enough to establish a partnership where it includes vehicles. And
Okay.
so we have the transportation locked down for our scholar athletes. So right now we have games scheduled for in Virginia, in Georgia, in Florida, South Carolina. And
Wow.
so if we're going to go further out, we can.
Okay.
But that's where we are right now. Yes.
Okay. Now I want you to understand this. With you coming on this show, a number of post-grad coaches watch this show. So don't
Hmm.
be surprised if they reach out asking to play games from Tennessee, Georgia,
Oh,
Alabama,
yes.
all over, Mississippi, Louisiana. A lot of them are looking for games, and they will say, "Hey, are you interested in playing? Can we,
Hmm.
can we play at your place, or can you come to our place?" You will get approached. So, how can they reach you online? Because I don't want 100 of them calling me. Hey, what's their number to reach out to Dell Prep? How can they reach Dell Prep online?
So you can go to our Twitter page and send us a message. Both of our not college coaches, but both of our post grad coaches have access to the Twitter, so they'll see the message.
Okay.
Or also, I can provide the number for Coach Quincy Miller. He is our senior director of operations for basketball.
Okay.
He actually manages our scheduling, and
Okay.
so I can provide that information out as well. So anybody that actually message us on Instagram or Facebook. I'm the one that they're communicating with, but I let them know reach out to Coach Quincy Miller.
Okay. Okay. So let me ask this from a perspective of, this is the first year, right? You guys are getting this
Mhm,
the first year.
mhm.
So before you really get kicked off, in late September to start your schedule, do you plan to have college coaches in the gym? What's the plan?
Yes, we are. So honestly, we've had a college coach reach out today asking if they can come to our prospect training camp this Saturday.
Okay.
And so we're most definitely open to that. We don't want to just have our scholar athletes in front of college coaches during the games. We want them to see them, practicing when they're weightlifting. So what we're going to do as well to make it easier is we're going to actually stream live and also record while our scholar athletes are in their practice and while they're doing their weightlifting. We want them to see them as a whole person. So not just, in a game, not just in the gym practicing or weightlifting, but even when they're in the classroom, we just want them to see a full picture of who they are.
Okay. Okay. I like that. So, and I'm assuming, are you going to plan to play in one of the post grad national championships, whether it be Phenom, Big Shots, especially since that's in the area? Those
Yes.
are two of the big ones. So I would assume you're probably going to play in one of those.
It's on our schedule. It
Okay. Okay. So
is.
you have your schedule pretty much done then.
We're still developing the schedule. If anybody want to see what we have thus far, we try to update it on a weekly basis.
Okay.
I mean, we know it's early, but we do have some games that's already scheduled, so they can go to our website, dellprepathletics.org, and can look at our schedule that we have listed so far.
Okay. And now the next big thing as well as we're looking at this, like I said, I totally understand it's early and you have some things you're still working out as far as schedule and all of that stuff. So when I think about, post grad basketball, a lot of people like to say, well, let me ask this first before I even go there. Do you plan to play any junior colleges?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we are. Yes,
Okay.
we don't want to just stay at the post grad level. We want to give them that extra competitiveness, but also have them exposed in front of college coaches where we're actually playing them and they can see them firsthand. They can see how they're playing against their current players and how they will mesh with their team. And just seeing how how they're able to handle that kind of competition.
Okay. So one of the big things about post grad is as post grad is evolving now,
Hmm.
you're starting to see leagues start to pop up. Um,
Hmm.
there'll be a league in Ohio, there's a league in Texas, there's a league out in the West Coast, there's going to be a league down in Florida, and then there's going to be somewhat of an elite league that the teams are still working out. And of course, you got the granddaddy of them all, the NetSac League in the Northeast. I haven't heard much. Is North Carolina and South Carolina kind of been in talks about having a league?
Um, Me personally, I haven't heard anything. I know for us as Dell Prep Athletics, we're in the mode of slow and steady. Slow and steady wins the race. So we don't want to try to do so much early on to where it's something that's falling off. You just want to make sure that we're staying according to our plan that we have in place.
And I have no problem with that. That's a good plan. You don't want to bite off more than you can chew early, and I think that's good. So, are you thinking about playing anywhere from 25 to 30 games, or possibly more?
We're looking at playing a little bit more than that.
Okay.
Probably around around the 40, 45 games.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Well, y'all doing it out there. Okay. Okay. So let me let me ask this. I mean, so you're talking 40, 45 games, housing. That's always a big thing that parents are going to ask for housing. How are you guys set up for housing?
So our scholar athletes will actually stay on a college campus. If you go into our website, you'll actually see the
Wow.
facility. And
Okay.
so we just want to have that. And that's what I mean by them having a taste of what it will be like in college. And so
Okay.
now you're able to stay on a college campus, you're able to take those courses, and they will have access to the student union, the library. There's a gym that's in walking distance. And so we really want to give them that exposure early on because our thought process, if we have it rigorous, not just with the academics, with the athletics, if you're able to make, like, we want to make it a little harder. So if you're able to maintain with our program, then you should be able to be successful. Also, we already know when it's time to go off to college, especially with COVID has taken place, that's when you have the social emotional aspect. And so we want to make sure that we're hitting on that as well. And so while they're away from home, we want to prep them and prepare them when they go off to college. A lot of students get homesick, and so we have some kids coming from like Canada, Las Vegas, and so just Barbados, and so just being able to have those kids and them being on a college campus, they're able to get a snapshot of what it will be like at the next level.
Okay. Now, and I have two other questions as well. So, as far as recruiting, you're trying to get kids from all over the country, correct?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yes,
So,
correct.
and does that include Canada as well? You're trying to get Canadian kids as well?
Yes, we have
Wow.
one. Yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, as I look at that, so you got the housing. Can I ask what campus is on?
Yes, we're at Barber Scotia. We're staying on their campus.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm familiar with
Mhm.
them. Now, since you're staying on the campus, are you going to have that set up to where they're eating at their little cafeteria as well? Man, you
Yes, their
got
meal plans is included.
listen, and I have no shame in saying this. You guys are ahead of a lot of post grads by having that connection where you're connected to a school, you have the classes set up. I think it's even more impressive that you're not big on them taking college classes unless they have a 3.0. That's that's the first time I've heard that, to be honest with you.
Mhm,
That's the first time I heard
mhm.
that, but that's really good. So, I mean, definitely hats off and kudos to you. You got that education part taken care of. And you see, I'm asking those questions because I'm big on that, just to be honest. I'm big on that
Mhm.
educational piece. And hearing you guys having that in order, it's going to force a lot of other people to up their game. And it just isn't about I'm going to beat Dell Prep because at
Mhm.
the end of the day, if Dell Prep is putting kids in school and they are prepared, that's the win right there. That's the big win.
Right,
And
right.
I like what I hear so far. I mean, and with you guys and again, with you guys being in North Carolina, you're gonna have some kids. I mean, in South and what I've learned quickly is South Carolina has some good talent as well. A lot of people
Mhm.
don't really associate South Carolina with having a number of good players, but they do. They actually do. And gosh, I mean, when I look at what you guys are doing, man, this is definitely impressive. If there's anything, I can do to help, by all means, reach out. But looks like you guys
We
have
appreciate it.
everything in order. And so are you going to play on campus there, or is it going to be at another location where you're actually going to have your home games?
It's going to be at another location. It's actually going to be at Carolina Courts, which is
I
2
know I
minutes.
was just there 2 weeks ago at Indian Trail. I was just there.
Yes, it's literally 2 minutes from Barber Scotia. But I really want to, I know you when we talk, you say like you, but I want to praise like the entire team because
Oh, yeah.
everybody is pulling
Yeah,
their weight. They're working hard
absolutely.
to make it happen, but also the community, for them to believe in what we're trying to do for our youth and just working with us and helping us put together a solid plan for our kids. Most
I,
definitely.
I really like what I hear. And I mean, if you guys had any type of push like that from your community, you guys are definitely going to be successful. And look, I'm going off course here, but I love the Smoky Pit there, not too far from Carolina Courts. That's my place right there. That place is good. Oh my goodness. Look, when I come see you guys play, I will have a bag of Smoky Pit in my hand. Trust me.
Okay.
Trust me. That is my spot right there. When I was there
I
2
know
weeks
that's right.
ago, I was like, oh, let me stop here. Because I used to work somewhat close. I used to work in Pinehurst in that area. So when I would drive
Okay.
back from Atlanta, I would come that way and like clockwork, I was like, oh, let me stop here. I got to have this. And man, I'm excited to hear what I hear, for post grads, it's going to be imperative that people run it the right way. And, some people will be leery of new post grads because it's always going to be the question is it run right? And if you
Mhm.
guys are running it the way you have it set up and what you're saying, yes, you're definitely going to be successful. And I definitely wish you the best on this. And this
Thank
won't
you.
be the last time because I'll be interested to see how Dell Prep turn. I mean, yes, of course, I'll be interested to see how you got the team you have, but I want to
Mhm.
see more on what you guys are doing from academically. So I want to see it myself just because it's a breath of fresh air just to hear you talk of doing it the right way.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We really
And
appreciate it.
oh no, and thank you for coming on the show. I can't wait to see more. And of course, you have Combine there, but it's what Combine. There's Bull City, that's up in Raleigh. Yeah, Winston Salem Christian. They got a post
Mhm.
grad, and I think there's a couple more in North Carolina as well. But you know, I would say it's not far fetched by what you guys are doing that you guys will be a staple in that post grad community, not only in the North Carolina region, but definitely the Southeast and as well as on a national scale when you start really getting that program out there and people start asking, who is Dell Prep? And I say, oh yeah, man, they're out of Charlotte, man. They doing their thing. They close to one of my favorite restaurants. So, but no, I know in all seriousness, I applaud what you guys are doing. And I think it's great that you're doing this, from a perspective, you're honoring your father and, prayers to you for that. I understand on losing a parent and, to have a legacy where you're honoring his legacy, I think is going to be big.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Definitely. Well, Coach, like I said, you and Quincy are welcome on the show at any time. And I look forward to seeing what you guys plan to do in the next 3 or 4 months and, seeing you down in Georgia play as well.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you inviting us on board.
No problem. Again, we'll have you on the show again, especially once you guys get rocking and rolling. But next time, to bring my favorite food next time. You already know that.
I got you.
All right, you take care, and we'll be talking real soon, okay?
All right. Have a great evening.
All right, you too. That was Coach Newsom from Dell Prep. I'm telling you guys, like, it's going to be imperative for post grads to get a handle on running things the right way. I always applaud any post grad that are helping these kids get the extra development, the extra schoolwork, all of that, because it's going to be important. The way this portal is, there's not going to be enough spots for everybody. So if you still have a passion for playing and getting better, post grad is going to become a needed option because when you have the portal, you have JUCO, you have international players, and the high school players are being squeezed out to fourth and fifth. You're going to need that extra year because some prospects aren't going to have that opportunity. So they're going to need some development, whether it be in school or whether it be athletically as well. Our next guest is not a stranger to the show, and actually, she is going to start to have her own segment because I thought it was important for people to understand the importance of not only being healthy but preparing for not athletic training, but she's going to definitely stretch on what you need to do to be prepared so you can avoid certain injuries. We got Dr. Aaron Hassler coming on, and for right now, we're going to call it Hassler's Corner for right now.
Okay.
How you doing, Dr. Hassler? How you doing today?
Doing well. How are you?
I appreciate it. I'm doing good too. Thank you for coming on. And
No
we
problem.
talked earlier because I wanted this to be somewhat of a regular thing to have you on the show to talk about different topics from athletics, different topics from injuries, and all of that. And it's not just about, as you say, just taping ankles, so to speak.
No.
It's a lot more than that. It's being game ready, being prepared so you can avoid a lot of these injuries. So I'm going to sit back and let you do your presentation.
Okay. I mean, we can just talk today.
Okay, absolutely.
I know we kind of touched on it a little bit, so I don't have anything really formal. I had a couple of notes I wanted to make sure that people are aware of today. This is AAU season. The month of June is typically that school team, time and that live period when kids get to work out with their school teams and get to go to team camps and it changes the flow up a little bit. But there's some things that go along with that. That's travel and scheduling and preparation. And I think a lot of students and their student athletes, I think a lot of them just think that they can get up and be ready and hop on the court. It's exactly the opposite. You have to understand really what your overall goal is up front. What's the goal? We want to go to college, right? We want it to be paid for, right? Well, when you interview for a job, you have to be ready for that job, be ready for that interview. And so that requires preparation. And, I have a 17-year-old athlete, as do you. So some of the things that I would normally tell my kid would be some of the things I'm going to share with the group today. Recovery is a really big component in my practice. And I found it as my sweet spot. Every athletic trainer, we get the broad overview. You know how to tape, how to do some emergency care, how to do some administrative things. This recovery piece is like yoga to me. It's like my happy spot. Like my little bubble where all things are great, and no worries. And the thing is to set the tone for success. So I wanted to talk a little bit about preparing for that. And these high school athletes, these post-grad athletes have to start scheduling. You don't just fall asleep when you fall asleep. Plan it. Go ahead.
And I was going to, and you just, I'm just wanted to ask while it's fresh in my mind, like you just said, it's AAU season, it's post-grad season, and, AAU, you play a lot of games. You play a lot of games. So with that being said, the athletic training perspective / sports medicine becomes pertinent, and people do not understand how important it is.
They don't, not even a little bit. And the unfortunate part is, there are a lot of events where they won't even see an athletic trainer, so they got to figure out things on their own. So I tend to, if I'm working with a team, if I'm working with an athlete, I try to prep them for the times when there isn't anyone around. If they're traveling. So again, you got AAU, you're in Georgia today, and then you're in Texas tomorrow, and then you're in Florida the next week, and then you're in Vegas the following week. And so no one's talking about sleep. No one's talking about preparing for the travel. Again, I want to go back to planning. If your goal is to go to the next level, you can't run your life as a high school student. You have to run your life as if you're prepping for the next place, which would be the collegiate level. So what do college athletes' schedules look like? I think people tend to assume, you can sleep in late and then go to class. No, if you're a college athlete, you're on someone else's time. So it's up early, eating at a certain time, training room at a certain time, class at a certain time, practice, eating again, recovery. All of those things have to be scheduled out. So as high school students, as post-grad students, it's really important that they start to schedule those things out. What time do I get up? Okay. Am I gonna have my clothes out, my uniform
so
out the night?
important.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah. We're gonna be prepped the night before. Sometimes my son will sleep in his uniform. Whatever he got to sleep in for practice the next day so he can be ready, so he can sleep a little bit longer. But if that's your thing, that's your thing. Am I going to eat breakfast? Yes, I am. I have to do something. And some people don't like to eat before a workout, but that means you got to get up earlier.
So, okay. So let me ask this. So are we talking a light breakfast or like maybe an orange and some, apple juice? Or are you talking about
You don't have to eat heavy. You don't have to eat
okay.
heavy, but you need the fuel so that you can sustain. You have no idea what coach is going to have up his or her sleeve that day.
Okay.
You got to be prepped to go to war every day. If you wake up and you think, oh, today's a light day, we're just going to do shooting, you may be mistaken. Let someone miss something. Let someone mess something up. Let somebody miss practice. Let someone come in late. There may be some other consequence that drags practice out.
Yeah.
Be prepared. Be prepared. I've been in some really long practices.
So let me ask this. Okay. And this is interesting. So, okay, we want to have breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
We want to do our stretching before practice, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even before stretching, we want to,
we don't stretch cold. We don't stretch cold. So, you got to warm up. You need to give yourself ample time to be ready before coach blows the whistle. Don't have coach come out and be.
What's ample time?
Your body's different from the next person. You have to know. And that takes practice. That takes preparation. It's not, okay, 1, 2, 3, 1, the thing in the circle. Everybody's in the circle. And all right, I'm done. Okay, 5 minutes. No. Each person's different. Some people can do that. They may be more flexible. They may be more pliable. They may be able to jump out of the gym off of 10 minutes. Not most people, though. It didn't really happen like that. But then there are some that it takes them a little bit longer to get warmed up. So if that's you get up, you get on the bike. In high school, that those things may not be accessible, right?
Uh-huh.
But you shouldn't be the last one in the gym. If your goal is to be picked up by a college program, you need to be the first one there and more than likely the last one to leave.
Okay. Now the next big question as well.
Mm-hmm.
The next big question becomes, okay, when is it that you determine somebody needs to be taped up? Whether it be ankles, wrists, is it just preventive or is it when they've had an injury to say, okay, just to be on the safe side, we want to tape you up? Because I know some guys that just do it just to do it. Is that
some people like tape? They just think it's pretty, but post-injury, definitely.
Yes.
Especially if they're prone, then you want to do it to protect. But you're also, while you're doing that, you're also doing the work to recover, to heal, to strengthen that area. I don't have people just tape and then do nothing. If we're taping and we're taping every game, then on some level you need to be doing calf raises and band work and strength work to support what we're doing. The tape is just there to help with an additional amount of support.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What I was saying with the schedule was, I think kids miss coming in early, giving themselves enough time, but they also need to research what these colleges are doing to be great. They don't understand that there is a thing called shoot around.
Yes.
Right. So you wake up on a Friday, you go to school, you have an AAU practice that day. AAU game that day. So you go and you show up, you got the 6:30 game. you hop right out of the car. You know, and you wonder why your Friday game wasn't great. But then Saturday, you get out of the, you get up, you might have the early game. But how early did you get up to prep for that game? So those are things that I would say need to be scheduled out, and so that kids can start to think about how much time they need individually, what the college coaches are looking for, and then what it looks like when they get to college, so that it's not a surprise. It shouldn't be you get there and everything be a shock. If you've been an athlete, you should be a student of the game. So by the time you get there should be some things that you don't know, but shoot around shouldn't be one. Right? That's part of your warm-up. That's part of your prep. Okay. So you can shoot around and then stretch. It doesn't have to be I run around the gym in a circle. It could be I go put some shots up, get a little sweat. Now I stretch.
So if let's just say somebody's relying on you to say, I want you to come up with a routine for our team. Let's just say they want you to come up with, what should we do to stretch? What should we do to get ready? What should we do eating wise before a game? What should we do to stay hydrated during a game or during halftime or after the game? What would be your suggestions?
I have some little hacks for certain things, but I would say give them in general like a 20-minute warm up stretching window. It doesn't have to be a long stretch, like 20 minutes solid, but that's warming up and stretching combined. Team stretching is good, but that means that they need to be guided the first time, because kids will take somebody else's leg way back. They're like, no, I'm gonna push you, and you push them, and now you injure them.
That's
right.
True.
So, but that would be something that I would teach them. Up front. Hey, here's some stretches. Here's some calf stretches. Here's some things for hamstrings versus glutes versus quads, upper body. People leave upper body out a lot. So incorporating those things would be part of my training protocol with them before I release them.
Okay.
And then I don't know. The rest of it's kind of up to the coaches, getting them in there and getting them ready, but making that adjustment when they're traveling is going to be huge, because I think that's the thing that sometimes gets cut out. You get to the hotel late, you give them something greasy, you let them go to sleep.
Yeah, and then it sits on their stomach, and then they're
groggy.
And
no work. None of that gets done. And then, okay, well, we got the late game today, so then you let them sleep a little longer versus getting up, maybe doing some yoga. There's a lot of different things you got to add in. So that would be that. And then I wanted to remind them about being intentional. Like whatever it is that your goal is, right? Your goal is to be a collegiate player. Your intent has to be on that all the time.
Okay.
In the classroom, this is where it is. When you're communicating, this is where it is. Communicating to the athletic trainers at your school, being able to communicate about what's bothering you now, because if you can't talk about it here, then you get to a place where they have all these resources, spend the time where someone has time, and they can show you how to do some of the corrective, preventative measures. When you get to that next level, if you're not ready, you're not ready. And then it's the next man up or woman up.
That's true. But for those freshmen, a lot of times they don't know, because Correct. A lot of times coming from high school, we all understand college athletics is a different world from high school athletics, even down to preparation that we're talking about right here. A lot of people, like you say, think they're just going to jump out of bed and think they're just going to be more athletic than this person that's 21 or 22 years old. That's not the case. This person has a routine now because they have learned that they tried that as a freshman and it didn't work. There are very few freshmen that will come in and be physically better and stronger than somebody that's 21, 22, 23, and you're 17, 18, maybe just turning 19 as a freshman. This doesn't work. The anatomy doesn't work like that.
No, it
And
doesn't, but the
years,
mental discipline can.
yes.
So if you're mentally prepared for that next level, even if your body's not ready yet, when it comes, you won't be shocked. I mean, that's part of the homesickness stuff that the kids fall into because no one's babying you at that point.
Oh no, yeah,
Coach
you're right.
Coach wants what coach wants when the whistle blows, and if it's not there, then we either do it over. Yeah, there's a whole lot of other things that can precipitate out of that. And so if you're practicing that mental piece up front, writing down everything you need to do, brushing your teeth, even if it's something so petty as go to the bathroom, brush my teeth, whatever that is, get into that routine so that you control the time blocks throughout the day now, so that when someone else is controlling that for you, study hall and such, team meeting, watching film, slot it out now so that it's not a surprise later.
Okay.
And you'll find that their performance will improve.
So not only will performance improve, it keeps injuries to a minimum, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It could, yes, definitely.
So with keeping the injuries, well, now we're really going into preventive maintenance. So preventive maintenance, of course, we're doing what we just talked about, the preparation, which will cut down on certain injuries, making sure you're loose, making sure you stretch out, making sure you're not tight, make sure if you had a slight sprain or even coming off a severe sprain that you're getting taped up, whether it be ankle, wrist,
shoulder, wrist. I can tape anything.
The whole nine. Because what you see now a lot of times is you'll see like they may wear the shoulder brace or the knee brace, instead of the tape. I get it, but because then you're talking about the wraps then instead of the tape, then, right?
Well, I use both. I do a lot with Tate.
Okay.
And yeah, they're one of my partners, so I do a lot with them. Pretty much, if I can tape it up, we can go.
Okay.
I do not tape brains. I do not tape hearts. I do not tape lungs. So all of that stuff, that's the 911 situation. But I can tape a lot of things. So, prevention is a really big piece of this, but being rested is essential. And I think a lot of kids, especially coming off of this post-COVID, we're still not really post-COVID, but you know what I mean, that operating as if we're still in the lockdown phase. I believe that you have to really manage your time well. Those kids get into the video games, they get on their group FaceTime and all that. Time gets eaten up when just because they're laying down, it does not equate to rest.
Correct.
It doesn't equate to sleep. Just because you're not actively walking around, it doesn't mean your body's really recovering. So you have to be intentional about that and actually schedule those things out too. So
how many hours of sleep are you recommending is required?
6 to 8. 6 to 8. But it's going to hit these kids differently at different times. When they're hitting a growth spurt, they're going to get more in. When they're traveling, they're going to get less in. When they're switching time zones, that's a whole nother day. They got to even manage that part, because you go from east to west versus west to east.
Yeah,
you're exhausted.
I agree.
Right? I agree. Yeah. So
let me ask, as I'm thinking about this, we're talking about preventive maintenance. We're talking about pre-game warm-ups and pre-game maintenance as well. Off-season maintenance, because like we just talked about, AAU is a huge grind. College basketball is a huge grind. And a lot of times these are shocks to young athletes, because when you're in high school, you play probably about 25. If you make it to the state championship, maybe about 29, no more than 30 games. When you get to college, between preseason, you can play up to, if you add preseason to it, you're talking about 45 games plus,
The deep
preseason,
season.
scrimmage. Yeah. If you're adding all of that in. So you'll hear a lot of times that freshmen hit the wall because they're really tired and they haven't played at a high level for this many games. So their body is still adjusting to it, or you'll start to see a little small nagging injuries start to come. So once the season is over, do you recommend just saying, okay, for the next week, or take a break for a week or two?
Well, I tend to so at the collegiate level, it's a little different. High school level, it's a little different. Depends on the resources that are available. And then, of course, AAU, there are so few teams that actually have athletic trainers or a medical provider to travel with them, to monitor them. So, and then kids switch out of teams all the time. So it's hard to follow them. But let's say if you're in a school situation, high school situation, or a post-grad situation, end of the season, we're doing an end of the season eval.
Okay.
Whatever is bothering you, I need to know.
Okay.
Let's figure it out. Let's create a plan. Anything that needs, film like x-rays or MRIs, let's get that out. Anything else that needs to be rehabbed, then let's get a plan for that. Now with the high school level, again, it's a little bit different because each kid has their own primary care physician or PCP or clinic that they go to. At the collegiate level, they all report to a team doc.
Yes.
So you get all that done in one day, right here on the spot. But at the high school level, it would be up to the athletic trainer to facilitate that. Okay. And then to document, in each person's chart, what the concerns are so they can be carried over. And then before the next school year's physical, hopefully those things can be addressed. If not, they're lingering, then they need to be addressed, before the next, school year, of course, but the next season.
Okay. So if for people that want to reach out to you and want to get your suggestions, how can they reach out to you?
Okay, they can always Google me. You can Google me, Dr. Erin Hassler, and my clinical practice comes up, Sports Factory, and then my website for my book, which is goldmedaldoc.com.
Okay.
So sportsfactory.com and goldmedaldoc.com. Instagram and Twitter are my name. Okay. Dr. Erin Hassler and Sports Factory.
And Sports Factory. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we're going to have this anywhere between once to twice a month starting out. And I don't want to put you on the spot to say, what's going to be the topics for the future, but it's going to be more towards maintenance, preventive maintenance, sports medicine. And listen, that's not my field. I'll let you tell the audience what you plan to do for the future and talk about.
Okay. I'm really big on the mental aspect and really, really locking in there. I think that's the place where athletes are separated, between the good, the great, and the elite. And I think, really, really incorporating that part into everything that they do, from an injury to no injury to performance. I think really if they really, really lock in on that mental aspect, there's no telling where these kids will go. Mm-hmm. So it's a big part of my clinical practice, even though I do medical things, like actual medical things. That's a piece of the medical practice that people are starting to incorporate a little bit more. And I think it's really important to do so.
Okay. Listen, I definitely appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Now this is a pilot that we're going to keep building going. And, I want this to be a really good segment of the show. And, I'm just looking forward to keeping the build on this because, to be honest, this is something that, like you just said, we both have, seniors, upcoming seniors. So, this is something that's important for them because, as we know, they're all playing AAU. And in these days, AAU ties almost right into high school ball. Like as we're doing right now, this is June, so this is shut down for AAU time, but it's high school team camp. As soon as high school team camp is over, they basically get it'll be over the 28th. July 4th, they're right back at it.
Right back in it. Yep.
Right
No
back at
time
it.
off.
All the way to July 25th. They'll be done. They'll probably get a week off. And then right after that week, you start going into elite camps for the next 2 to 3 weeks. And after those 2 to 3 weeks of elite camp, it's time for fall league.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
No rest.
Yeah, it goes
no rest. So that's going to be really important, especially when you look at the age of the athlete and how you space them out. They're going to have to take the initiative for themselves because coaches don't know the word no. I mean, a lot of coaches don't know the word no, and they really like the performance piece. It doesn't, there's nothing wrong with that, but the kids will have to make sure that they're taking care of their business on their own schedules.
Absolutely. Listen, I look forward to hearing more of not only just the sports medicine aspect, but like you said, the mental aspect, because those are things, when we start talking about sports medicine and we start talking about preparation for games, that mental aspect is something that a lot of people don't talk about. And, I look forward to hearing a lot more about that. And I appreciate it. So, let's keep expanding on this part of the show of Hassler's Corner, and we will keep it moving.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No problem. You have a good one. We'll be talking soon, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
All right,
thanks
take
to
care.
you, Jess.
All right, anytime.
All right, thanks.
So, listen, even though I talk about education, this whole sports medicine aspect, because when you start thinking about the wear and tear of your body, and if you're not doing certain things, we start to see a lot of these injuries pop up in kids younger, like the torn ACLs, the capsular shift operations for separated shoulders. We start to see a lot of that stuff start to pop up. We're starting to see torn Achilles that was unheard of like years ago, but because of quote unquote the overuse and such the grind and training and a lot of games and seasons not really ever ending, you're starting to see a lot of this if you don't have preventive maintenance. So we're going to build on that, just like we build on the educational part, because it's going to be important for people to understand how important that is. So you don't see your kid blow a knee out, or, pull a quad, or, separate a shoulder, or lingering injuries, a broken ankle or high ankle sprain. So we want to at least keep putting out this information so people can become more educated on this important topic as well, sports medicine. So that'll do it for tonight. Thank you for everybody joining episode 53. Next week, we got another great show. Man, we got a coach coming from Alaska on the show. So that'll be a first from Alaska, Anchorage. So we'll be looking into that, and we'll have some other good coaches coming on as well. And we will have Dr. Hassler come on another time this month to speak about her sports medicine and Hassler's Corner. That'll do it. Thank you for joining. I'm David Jones with Hoops Hitting Gyms. You take care.